January 22nd, 2019, meeting of the Town Planning and Zoning Commission for the Town of Fairfield. First item on our agenda are the meeting minutes from January 8th.
Move to approve.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Francis, second by Commissioner Corcoran. Thank you, guys. I didn't see any issues there. Any comments, questions? Okay. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? Okay, the minutes are adopted unanimously. Next item is 1280 Stratfield Road, special, it's a request of Summit Stratfield LLC for a 2-year extension of a special exception approval to establish a child daycare use in the neighborhood design district.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, this is the location of the former Stratfield IGA Market. Should well familiar to this commission, I am sure. On February 11th of 2014, the commission approved a special exception application for a daycare facility in the existing building. The property owner and the prospective tenant at that time never completed their proposal. We have a new building owner at this point as of a couple of weeks ago. They have found a new tenant that wishes to implement that daycare use that was approved in 2014. It has a 5-year lifespan to it with the potential for 5 years of extension. They are seeking a 2-year extension to implement the proposed site plan and building improvements. They are not proposing any changes to the site plan that was approved by this commission. They are proposing some modest modifications to the architectural plans. Mainly the mansard roof that was proposed in 2014 has been eliminated. And the existing front facade is proposed to be kept to maintain a traditional character of the building. You have in front of you, hopefully, a several-page packet. There's a letter that details the changes they're proposing. The first 3 images are the proposed look that they are proposing now. The next 4 images are the plans that were approved in 2014. And in my opinion, I believe these revisions are consistent with the prior approval. So they have a 2-year extension before you, and then some adjustments to the architectural plans.
Okay. Thank you very much. So our determination here is to decide whether this is would you say a de minimis?
Yeah, you've got 2 issues. They're asking for a 2-year extension,
Right.
number one, and then the revisions to the plan as to whether you think they're consistent with
Yeah.
the previous approval.
But the request for the extension is on the basis of the revision to the plans, right?
It's a combination. Their 5-year time frame is coming due next month, so they would need, even if they were not changing the plan at all, they
Right.
would still need an extension.
Right.
So it's an extension, and they're also proposing some revisions to the exterior look.
All right, so the alternatives that we have before us are to approve this as applied, a 2-year extension, including the revisions that are shown in the attachments, or we could approve the extension without the revisions, just on the basis of the prior application, to which I think they're entitled by right, unless there's some reason to, you know.
Yeah, honestly, there haven't been any regulation amendments
Right.
subsequent to the approval that would impact their approval.
And then the third option, if we believe that the changes that are proposed are more significant, is to move this to public hearing. So that would give the neighborhood a chance to evaluate the plans and come in to ask questions or provide their feedback and opinion on whether this is consistent with the plan as we previously approved. So we have the staff recommendation, comments, as being not significant, and to approve the compliance as it has been submitted. But it's up to us to decide. So before we go any too much further, we should get a motion on the table for consideration.
Motion to approve.
Okay, a motion to approve by Commissioner Francis, and that is to approve the 2-year extension and the designs and the revised designs that are in the packet, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Can I have a second?
A second.
Second by Commissioner Corcoran. Okay, thanks. Commissioner Francis?
Could you refresh me on a few things?
Sure.
The plans are so small, I can't. The dumpster is where? First of all, New Street is really the name of the street? Okay.
No changes.
Yeah, they're not proposing any changes to
Yeah.
the approved site plan.
Right.
I have a larger version of it.
Yeah, see, which I don't have anymore. It's probably back here.
Let's see. They've got, there's a refuse enclosure to the rear of the building, to the left of the one-way drop-off loop on the right-hand side of the building.
Yep, that's where I figured. Okay, and that's all shielded?
Yep,
Like we
fenced.
like. And the mechanical,
Those 2 trees in the back?
where those 2 trees are, yeah. Where the brown meets the yellow, yeah.
You just make out a gate underneath the tree.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay. And.
But
the
that's
mech-
not a change from the original application.
That's correct.
No,
That's-
I was just clarifying where it was.
Okay.
And the lighting, we're all happy with? It meets our standards?
Yep, it was all approved in 2014.
Okay, and the mechanicals are shielded on anything that's on the flat roof? And maybe nothing's on the flat roof, I don't know.
I don't know to the extent that there are any mechanicals on the roof.
Yeah, it might be on the ground. I just don't remember from 2 years ago.
That's a good point.
Yeah, because we like shielded mechanicals and downlights and...
To the extent there are any, we can certainly require
Okay.
screening.
Thank you, sir. All right. I'm fine.
Okay, so based on that, do you want to revise your motion to approve with the condition that any mechanicals on the roof be shielded from?
Yes, that's a good idea.
Okay, and Mr. Corcoran? Okay, so that's been, the motion's been amended then with that condition. Okay. Mr. Corcoran, any comments?
So, the criteria for a special exception includes whether the building fits in with the neighborhood.
Mhm.
I actually think this building looks better than the one that we approved before, and I like the architect's explanation.
Yeah.
I guess the question is, would the neighbors feel that way?
Right. So, you know, my input here is that the special exception application does require some consideration of us, of the plan, the design, the architecture, and the impact in the neighborhood. And certain of that has been, you know, changed here. But I don't think it's significant enough to merit a public hearing. That's my personal view, so I will be supporting the motion as it has been made to approve. But you're correct, that is a consideration that we took, you know, that we decided when we, you know, heard the original application, and part of our decision was that the plans were, you know, harmony with the neighborhood and so forth.
I will tell you, Mr. Chairman, the current owner, the new owner, has met with representatives from the SVA. I don't know how broadly that plan was shared, but I spoke to one particular representative of SVA this afternoon who thought they had a very productive meeting, and they look forward to working with this developer and have no, this particular person anyway, had, not speaking for, I don't know how many folks he professes to represent, but they had a productive meeting, and I know that there's some plan. You may be aware that SVA is trying to raise some money to do some streetscape improvements. There was a grant involved in there, and they had a very productive meeting with this owner to work together to accomplish that. So they've done some outreach, at least with the neighborhood organization. I don't know how far-flung that plan was shared.
McAleese.
Excuse me. Do you have a larger version of the plan, of the site plan, basically?
Of the, yes.
The site rendering, because the one question I have is, I can't see it in the rendering we have, but in the elevation, or the, you know, the perspective view from the corner, it looks like there's some kind of fencing, and fairly substantial fencing in the front corner as you enter the parent drop-off area, but I don't see anything on the site plan, and I'm just curious what's going on there.
There is,
I would expect it like they show around the play area, but I don't see anything.
well, there's a rain garden in that location.
Yeah, those on either side of the entry, there's a rain garden.
Um,
The elevation kind of shows it, the rendering on one side, but nothing on the other side. And I'm just curious, do you see here, this fence
that's,
is, but I don't see anything on the plan that indicates that exactly. So I just was curious if it's maybe on the bigger set, we just can't see it in our drawings. Should I come around?
He's looking at this fence here, what appears to be a fence
Yeah.
along the side there. But not,
And while you're looking at that, I'll just comment that I think, I agree, I think the new design is much nicer than what was proposed before. I haven't talked to too many people. I've heard comments from various neighbors at various events. There was a fundraising event for the SBA I went to, or, yeah, the SBA. And I think people would be, you know, people have grown accustomed to the IGA building. It's like an old friend, and they really would hate to see it change, but they want to see something happening there. And I think this is sort of a nice way of resolving it, popping windows in that side elevation, opening it up to the street. So,
if I may approach,
yes.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, I see what you mean. It doesn't really,
The full-size site plan has there's like a rain garden here, there's a rain garden at the corner, and
There's
there's a
that-
rain garden
the detail
here.
right there to the right, of that corner.
Yeah, I don't see a fence detail anywhere shown on here. There's a planting detail, and it goes down a little, so I don't know. We can get clarification as to whether that's just they may just have cordoned that off to keep, because it is going to go down and is going to
Okay.
collect water there, so I don't know if that's a
All right.
artist, a rendering detail or an actual...
Yeah, to dress up the drawing kind of thing.
detail, yeah.
Okay. It's nothing to make me stop. I'm in favor of this at this point, so.
You're also showing a sign.
yeah,
That's
there's-
shown because that was, that's the location of the sign that was shown on the original approval. They are not making any sign application as part of this proposal. That just carries over from the rendering of from the original.
Anyone else? Anyone else have any questions, comments? Commissioner Meyer?
I would love to see these revisions to the plan on a blueprint somewhere. I mean, I think they should show us what they want to change. I know it's nicely written out, but I'd like to see, I think there's a lot of questions from the board on pictures and where's this and where's that.
Well, Mr. Wendt, these in our packet are reduced versions of
It's
the
a- it's a-
full-size that are in the file, or no?
Yeah, I've got, it's not full size, but it is. I mean, it's similar to this size. I mean, I've got it a little bit bigger. You've got 8.5 by 11. This is 11 by 17. It's a rendering. It's not an elevation. This is an elevation drawing showing the difference. They want to keep the front facade and modify the details by
And I
taking.
suppose Commissioner Myers, I think, perhaps reacting to the fact that in the original application, we had specific plans
Mhm.
that
Yeah.
included the various architecture, detail,
Yep.
materials, etc., and that what we're seeing in our packet on the revision are renderings and
Right.
a drawing,
Mhm.
and not that detail that we had in the original application. So, I mean, we could, I suppose the options are to table this, ask the applicant to submit more detailed plans. Or we could have a further condition of approval, which would require them to submit full-size plans, including the architectural detail, the materials, and other specifics. Is that?
I mean, if it's a little bit bigger, yours, yours are, I can pass these down. I've got it, you can do it kind of a side-by-side look in a little bit bigger form, if that's helpful to you, but we can get whatever level of detail
Yeah.
you might deem appropriate.
Do they have to do new blueprints?
Oh, yeah.
I mean-
They're gonna have to submit that as part of the building permit application.
Okay. I think they should do that. They should, and we should be able to look at what was in 2014 approved and what changes they want to make. It's a lot of aesthetics to the exterior of the building. The notes say something about adding a water table or not adding a water table. So,
Yeah, that, what is it, you've got it in small.
That's come up about 2.5, 3 feet, and there's a change in the
Plan on
exterior finish.
your, with the mansard roof, the water table is basically about a 2.5-foot strip at the bottom of the building that they were showing as like a stone facade. They want to remove that and bring more of a vertical element from top to bottom on the building.
Yeah. Yep, sorry.
So, from the letter, it looks like they haven't done their plans yet. So we'd be asking them to pay for plans to be done before they know whether we're approving this or not. So I'm not sure what we would get out of those plans that we don't see here.
Well, I think that would be if we tabled it with a request that they submit full-sized plans and the like for us to take up at a next meeting. If we conditioned the approval on their submitting the plans, then we would be approving it, and they would be, carrying forth with their design.
Assuming we approve it.
Yeah, right. So, or not. I mean, as Mr. Wendt has stated, they're going to have to do those plans in the context of their construction and for their for the building permit. Commissioner Noonan?
Yeah, the commission, we've heard with questions as to what the proposed changes are. I'm happy if they feel the need to see the plans, follow them down the line to get the plans. I would suggest at the very least we probably should at least give them the extension. So, because I think A, it seems upright, and B, I don't know if we table it and all of a sudden we're up against the extension, what that does to the
Yeah,
deadline.
I don't think we have that much problem.
Look, I'm of the opinion it's kind of I'm of the opinion that if this was a special exception and we saw what we're reviewing now, that it really probably wouldn't make too much of a difference in our analysis of it. But if the other commission members would like to see the drawings first, I'm happy to follow them. It just strikes me that these, while they're good questions that we would ask during a public hearing, I'm not sure they would ultimately affect our decision making in the end.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that we are questioning what is being changed. I'm not questioning what's being changed. Do you see what's being changed? Do you see that the architectural style, they've described it in the letter? You see the renderings? I mean, we know what's being proposed. They're not changing the site plan at all. The floor plan is going to change only in immaterial fashion once they get in there, as it frankly does from time to time based upon the tenant. So I personally don't think that there is an issue with our approving this on the condition that any mechanicals be shielded from view, and if the movement and seconder here would be willing to amend their motion to require that the applicant submit, more detailed plans so that we have those on file, I would be in favor of the motion. But I want to make sure everybody's comfortable with that.
Truthfully, I think he's right, we should have plans, because that's what we always get.
Commissioner Levy?
Whereas I think,
Use the mic.
the change to the facade is de minimis, and we should just approve it, and they can later submit plans as necessary for our file.
Okay, very good. So without an amendment to the motion, like just the motion as it is framed right now is sufficient for you, yeah. Okay, and that's fine with me as well. 'Cause they're gonna have to do it, anyway. So,
Fine by me.
all right. But I just want to, everybody should be aware of the options that we
Right.
have in front of us, so we talk it through enough.
I don't want to amend the,
You're good?
yeah,
Okay. Any other questions? Okay?
somebody else might second.
Yeah, no, you have a second. The motion is not amended. The motion on the table right now is to approve the request for extension with the changes that have been submitted in the letter, with one condition of approval, and that is that any mechanicals on the roof be shielded from view. Because we can't, to determine that, Mr. Wendt couldn't confirm whether or not there will be any mechanicals on the roof. So we have that as the only condition of approval. Okay? Well, ready to vote? Okay, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? Okay. The item carries unanimously with conditions as stated. Okay, next is new applications to recommend a public hearing. The first is 1073 North Benson Road, special exception of Fairfield University for lounge additions for 4 existing residence halls in AA zone.
Mr. Chairman, this is this commission heard and approved a 4-story lounge addition for Campion Hall, I want to say, several months ago, that's being built out. They are proposing 4 additional similar lounge buildings for the rest of their freshman dorm quad. They are minor additions to those buildings, does require a special exception, does require a public hearing.
Okay.
Motion to approve?
Motion to move to public hearing by Commissioner McAleese,
Second.
second by Commissioner Noonan. Public hearing's required. Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Okay, move to public hearing unanimously. Next is 338 and 386 Commerce Drive, special exception and coastal site plan application of Belize Motor Sales Company for renovation of an existing building for an automobile sales facility and the construction of a new automobile service facility in the design industrial district. That is a very, very, very lengthy call.
Sorry. A couple of years ago, this commission approved a new building for the Hyundai dealership that's on the Post Road to relocate to 386 Commerce Drive. That plan is being revised. They're kind of joining properties, but bottom line is they're now going to convert an existing building to be their sales facility and build a new service building adjacent. So it is a special exception. Coastal site plan does require public hearing.
All right, thank you. Can I have a motion?
Move to public hearing.
Motion by Commissioner Noonan,
Second.
second by Commissioner McAleese. Public hearing is required on this application. Any comments, questions? Yes, Commissioner Corcoran.
Anything on this?
No, you don't have anything yet.
Because we have something for a car dealership across the street.
Yes, that's unrelated to this application.
Right.
All right. So, motion to move to public hearing, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Okay. Move to public hearing unanimously. Next is 3335 Beaumont Street, special permit application of Beachside Estates LLC pertaining to a 6-unit residential development in the design commercial district.
This, Mr. Chairman, is a site that was previously approved for a 12-unit 8-30G application that is not going to be moving forward as an 8-30G application. They're cutting the unit count in half and coming back for a revised application. It's no longer an affordable housing application. But it is a special permit application that does require a public hearing.
Wow. Okay. Well, we don't see that very often.
Move to public hearing?
Motion by Commissioner McAleese, second by Commissioner Corcoran. Very good. Any background on what happened? We approved it.
They just didn't think they could make the numbers work at 12 units.
Well, alrighty. Any comments or questions? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? Move to public hearing unanimously. Next is compliances, 85 Mill Plain Road, application of Pond Mill LLC to establish an indoor recreational facility in a portion of a building previously occupied by food service use in the design industrial district.
Yes, I'm sure you're all familiar with the Sportsplex facility behind our town recreation facility on Mill Plain Road. As you enter into that site from Mill Plain Road, there's kind of a freestanding building off to the right. This is half of that. It was formerly occupied for a number of years by a food service place called Cinch. They've relocated. There's a stretching exercise facility proposed in here. The actual parking demand for that use drops by 4 spaces, so it is consistent with other uses within the Sportsplex and permitted in the district.
Very good. Thank you. Can I have a motion? Motion to approve by Commissioner Corcoran.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Noonan. Any comments?
Appears to be in compliance. I don't see any reason to deny.
No further comments.
I have a question.
Commissioner McAleese?
Could you explain the parking? What did you say there?
The 8 parking spaces were attributed to the the takeout food use.
Okay.
Several years ago, after there's a provision in the regulations that allows the commission some flexibility in establishing the parking requirement for indoor recreational facilities that combined have more than 100,000 square feet, and there were several special permit applications made by Pond Mill LLC to revise the parking calculation. And several years ago, the commission agreed, because of a census of parking, I don't know if that's the right word, but an inventory of available parking spaces that they have compiled over time with various uses, established that 2.7 spaces per 1,000 would be the ratio that we would apply to indoor recreational uses in this facility. So that is the ratio that is being applied to this use. Otherwise, if you don't apply that ratio, it would be exactly the same amount of parking at 1 per 5 spaces per 1,000, which was what was attributed to the Cinch space.
So, do you remember the inventory sheet that, were you on? No?
I don't think so.
All right.
I remember this coming up on this site at a couple other places, like with the coffee place that went in. There was
Yep.
there was
Yeah.
some.
I don't know whether
Parking going on
whether in that application there was circulated the overall inventory for the sportsplex.
Yeah, I have it, and I don't think it was part of this.
I don't
believe it was part of this application, but 2.7 cars per parking spaces per 1,000 square feet was the adopted
Yeah.
revised parking ratio for this site for indoor recreational uses.
So that was based upon their experience with
Yeah.
various uses in the complex over the course of some years, and also some parking studies that they did in order to determine, or to confirm, not to determine, but to confirm that in fact it was working at that ratio. The significance here would be that if we required the 8 spaces, then they wouldn't have those extra 4 in their inventory to allocate elsewhere.
Yeah.
I mean, technically, that's a technical matter.
Yes.
So by approving the compliance as it has, been filed, we're reducing the number of parking spaces that would be assigned, if you will, to this space from 8 to 4, and that would release 4 spaces in their inventory.
Right.
For other things, if there's any other space that, even exists for them to do that. But the parking there, in terms of the number of spaces allocated to the individual uses, I think is has been approved and is consistent and is working. So, I would advocate that we approve this as applied and have the 4 spaces allocated to this new use.
I see your point. I mean, that helps to clarify it for me. I don't know why I'm hung up on this, but I remember having a debate about it with the coffee shop going in, and I just want to make sure that someone's keeping an eye on this for future projects. So I know there's like a new art school in there now, after one left, there's a new one in there. I just happened to be there the other day, and I was yesterday actually, and I was amazed how many
Quite an
people were
array
down.
of
Wow,
activities
it's
going on in there.
mind-boggling. But I'll take staff's comments.
They've done extensive inventories of parking on previous applications to the commission, and there's always, it's kind of like the mall, there's always space there. It may not be within 50 feet of the door you want to enter, but
Right.
there's never occasion in which space is not available.
Right. Okay, thank you.
I would point out they have 10 mats and 4 parking spaces, and they're open 13 hours a day, so it's not like, what are they going to run, classes?
I'm not exactly sure what their business model is for this, whether everybody's going to be there at once or whether this is kind of like, I'm not exactly
They look
sure.
like Pilates bed. Like Pilates
Yeah, I mean, it could be. I mean, it's
hard to tell.
Because you don't run a class unless you have it pretty full.
yeah. But there's a total of 346 parking spaces available in the facility as a whole.
Exactly.
And 7 are empty at any given time.
What?
And 7 are empty at any given time.
I don't
The place is
know.
hysterical. I don't know.
I agree, that the spaces that are in the lane that are immediately adjacent to the doors are taken, as they are at the mall, okay?
Right.
But, there are parking spaces available in that parking lot for people to park in. It's a busy place, it's successful, which is great.
Fairly ironic, given the amount of athletic facilities in there that people don't want to park two rows over to go work out, but.
And the other thing is frankly, this is adjacent to the train station. We have had testimony of people, going to, sort of work out before when they come home or whatever, and
Yeah.
people walking from adjacent areas in town and what have you. So,
That's true.
I think there's certain economies of scale that happen here because of the sheer size of this facility. Not everybody is at their
Operating.
peak operating
Yeah.
capacity
Yeah.
at different times. Some are more kid-oriented spaces, others are more adult, and some can kind of if you're dropping your kids off for gymnastics class, maybe you can do a stretch class or
Exactly.
something
Yeah.
else, so it's not all.
that's the point,
Yeah.
or that's the hope, anyway,
Yeah.
right?
And the thing that's always a little deceptive there is some of the parking is actually on the town's rec center site of that gate, right?
Well, not some of the
Well,
parking.
they lease
That's
a
not
piece
for
from the
this,
town,
right?
but there's
Yeah.
also a fair number of spaces
Oh, they lease that from the town?
along the train tracks, between the building and the train that
Right.
no one ever parks in.
Yeah.
Right,
But
right.
Again, I think the commission recognized, because of the sheer magnitude of the size of this facility, and there isn't a regulation because of that, certain economies that go on here, that created that
Yeah,
flexibility.
I'm willing to support this. I think it's a terrific facility, and I commend the official properties. I think it's amazing they were able to pull that off and get a great reuse out of that facility. So,
right.
enough said.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, the motion on the table is to approve. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Compliance is approved unanimously. Next item is 730 Brooklawn Avenue, application of Hake LLC to convert existing gasoline station service space to retail convenience store in the neighborhood design business district.
Okay, this site has for many years been occupied by a gasoline station and a 3-bay repair garage. The new owners of the property intend to install new underground gas tanks to maintain the gasoline service use and convert the garage bays to a retail convenience store. There are 9 parking spaces shown on the site plan. 15 would be required, 10 for the retail use and 5 for the gas use. That's exclusive of the gas pump spaces themselves. They did receive a variance last month from the Zoning Board of Appeals to reduce the parking count from 15 to 9. Other than that, it's an interior, well, a modest exterior alteration to convert the garage doors to windows in an entry door as shown in the on sheet A1 here.
Okay.
But it's got 9 spaces, should have 15, but that was deemed appropriate by the Zoning Board of Appeals.
All right.
I'm
No
sorry,
other
I didn't
comments?
hear you.
So 15 spaces would be the standard. There are 9 plus
Yeah.
however many cars can park at the pumps. And the Zoning Board of Appeals granted a variance for that reduction.
Right, so the requirement is no longer 15, the requirement is now 9,
Right.
for which they provide on the site plan. Okay, thank you, Mr. Lynn. Can I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Francis,
Second.
second by Commissioner Noonan. Commissioner Francis, any comment?
It looks like a good reuse of the property, upgrading. But I had some questions. This is a sidewalk behind here, concrete walk
Yes.
in Bridgeport. Is this,
On Laurel Avenue there?
yeah,
Yes.
okay, and I didn't understand, except for the utility pole, what's along here. Is the fence continuing?
There's not, in the back,
Yeah,
there's really not access from the back of that building. It's kind of overgrown and brushy, and there's a grade change there. So if you were on Laurel Avenue, that's kind of it's not an inviting entrance. You'd go down, there's 2 properties to the south. There's a corner that you can kind of walk around a little bit in a little bit better fashion.
oh,
Laurel Avenue is at a lower elevation than this site.
okay. So they're not gonna get their deliveries through there?
There's no vehicular
Concrete,
access from the rear.
okay. How are they getting their food truck deliveries? Right in the front here?
Right, they would pull in, there's 2 curb cuts. They would pull up along the front, I assume, and drop off and... Or depending on the size of the vehicle, they could park
Yeah.
in one of the parking spaces.
Frankly,
Okay.
they would take deliveries like most of them do. The
Street.
delivery truck pulling up to the front door.
Yeah, the liquor store next door does that. Do we have any restrictions? I meant to look it up before coming on, convenience store in terms of whether
Yeah.
they could sell liquor, beer, wine, or anything like that? Is it only?
Well, they could get a grocery beer permit. They can't sell anything other than beer. And it would be a grocery permit.
What about the regulation with the liquor store right next door selling beer?
It's a
Remember this?
package store permit. They couldn't have a package store here. They couldn't sell liquor. They could get a grocery beer permit.
And we have no way to restrict that, or do we?
No, it has to, those are
These
not
curb cuts that the trucks
set
don't
offset by
go.
the 15. They can't have like again, a package
Yeah,
store would have to be
1,500
1,500 feet. There's a
Right.
package store next door.
Right, right,
And they couldn't have a liquor permit or a package store liquor permit.
yeah.
But they could have a grocery permit.
Okay. then
To the
what-
extent, I don't know to the extent they're proposing one, but they could.
Right.
Yeah,
My
they're
concern there
not-
is we have a healthy business that's been there for generations, that's doing really well right next door, and any dent in their beer business could be significant for a guy like that, and I'd hate to see it. But I know,
That's
business.
Yeah, that's
I know.
not for us to do, to evaluate a compliance application for a permitted use in the zone with a
Well, that's why I was asking about a
variance.
convenience store, though,
Yeah.
what the definition of it is as opposed to.
There's not a restriction should they choose to sell beer under a grocery permit.
Commissioner Corcoran?
Is there any problem with the sign that's there?
There's an existing pole sign there. I mean, this is, was a Sunoco station for a long time, so there's an existing two-pole sign was a Sunoco and the gas pricing. It's an existing sign.
I know that the liquor store next door has very little parking.
Yeah.
And I think there's a sign right along there in the gas station saying, "Don't park here," if you're not, if you're going to the liquor store. And it's almost like that sign is right in the parking spot. But I guess that's just the way it is.
I mean, I don't think that there's, that sign that's existing there right now does not appear to me to be conforming with our
No, it's
regulations.
it's
That's a
been there many
pre-existing
years, yeah.
nonconformity, which is not being proposed to change, and so there's nothing we should be saying about that.
Okay.
What, are they going to sell sandwiches? Is that why it says food preparation?
Yes, they're, in addition to the, the convenience shelving and coolers, I expect that they're going to do some prepared sandwiches there, yes.
Does your drawing show how wide these aisles are? It says the shelves are 3 feet, and the aisles look only 2.
I do not know the width of the aisles. That's not anything that we would
We don't
regulate.
have any regulations about that?
No.
No, the fire marshal would have to approve the way they distribute their shelving to make sure there's adequate room for circulation.
Okay. Where's the dumpster?
They have, that's a good question. There's none shown on this drawing that I can see. Yeah. I don't know the answer to that
Do
question.
they give you big drawings like
I have the
this
same plan that you
didn't
have.
get?
No, I have the same drawing that you have.
Don't people have to hand in those large drawings? It's showing the lighting and the planting and the...
Yeah, to the extent anything's going to be changed, yes.
So the tree requirement is for lots that have 10 or more spaces? These
20.
are, this
No
is
trees.
9. No trees here.
No trees.
20 or more
Twen-
spaces.
20 or more spaces, so this does not require any additional trees. And they wouldn't be putting in a landscaping plan. This is a compliance application to change from one permitted use to another permitted use with a variance for the parking.
Yeah, but they're getting...
We're
into
not here to
food.
look at the width of the aisles and the interior of the store, or, how they're gonna take the garbage out. They gotta comply with our regulations, and if it's not being changed, not proposed to be changed, then it wouldn't be part of the application package.
And your regulations require a dumpster for...
They have to have a trash enclosure for whatever methodology they're going to dispose of that, and it can't interfere with their 9 parking spaces, so they'll have to show that. I'm assuming, I don't want to assume, but there's probably an enclosure behind that building, unless...
Yeah.
But they're going to have to detail that for to the health department of where they're going to do that.
There's no access to the back of it.
Yeah, it's tight, so I'm not sure where their trash enclosure is going to be, but we can certainly find that out.
So, I mean, if we wanted to get that far, you could make a condition of approval that they submit the explanation of their trash enclosure. But
Yeah, it may have to be upgraded from, I mean, a gas station has enough, those empty bottles from people buying freeze lime and all that stuff. But when you get into food, they're gonna have a lot more And we'd have to be more careful with rodents.
Will the health
that it's
department
tight,
control that?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
yes.
it's required, it's a town ordinance, and it's part of our regulations for it to be enclosed. So they're going to have to provide an enclosure, I just don't know where that's going to be.
Okay. Commissioner Levy?
Yeah, I think there's a certificate of compliance. I think the health department can deal with the trash.
I agree. Okay.
I have one question.
Yep,
Given
Commissioner
the
Macklin.
odd site that it's split through, you know, with the Bridgeport
Yep.
at the back of the building, I mean, should we make any sort of, what's the word I'm looking for?
Referral?
Pardon me? Like linking it to their approval, saying that this approval?
Yeah, the
or-
building official has spoken with the city of Bridgeport, and the town of Fairfield is going to take the permitting responsibility for this particular site.
Okay.
There's another example, the Land Rover
Right.
Jaguar dealership that kind of straddles the property line.
Commerce.
The majority of that site is in Bridgeport, so Bridgeport took the permitting for that. So the building officials had that conversation with the city in the permitting, because it's, all the access is from Fairfield, that they're comfortable with Fairfield issuing the permit.
Good enough, thank you. Good.
All right. So we have a motion to approve. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Compliance is granted unanimously. Next is 348 Blackrock Turnpike, application of Blackrock Soho, Inc. for a roof over an existing outdoor dining patio in the Design Commercial District.
Okay, this is Blackrock Oyster Bar. There are photos of the existing patio there. They are proposing a permanent roof, no walls, just a standing seam metal roof overhang with posts to provide some shade and protection from the elements, and everything else is existing pursuant to the photos. So basically, it's kind of a wraparound porch roof to over the top of their existing patio.
Okay, thank you. Can I have a motion so we can talk about this? Motion to approve by Commissioner Corcoran. Second by Commissioner Noonan. You want to start?
Yeah, I have some questions. To me, because this structure, it looks like a permanent structure, and I'm
It is.
wondering if it's a building addition. I mean, does it change the setbacks and the lot coverage of the existing building?
It does. They received and thank you for asking that. They did receive, where is it? Here it is. The variance from the Zoning Board of Appeals for the setback requirement. They got a reduction from 25 feet to 11 feet for the front setback, and to allow a 2.8 side yard in lieu of 0. It can be 0 or 10. Anything in between requires a variance. The lot coverage goes from 17.1% to 23%. 75% of the lot is permitted. So the lot coverage is compliant, but because of the location of the building, they needed relief from the front and side setbacks.
I don't understand the drawings, frankly. I mean, if you look at the, what is this, page 3, it shows on the, I guess the south side, it shows the footings and the columns supporting the roof. Outside, what looks to be a wall. If you look at the photo, that wall is like maybe a foot and a half tall, some kind of decorative stone block wall. And then if you look at page 4, I think it is, it's now like a 3-foot cinder block, or, concrete block wall. And then we go to 6, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 courses high. That's not an existing wall that they're just building a roof on. It looks to me like they're building some kind of, it doesn't go all the way up to the the plate for the edge of the roof, but it's a
Yeah,
pretty solid wall.
I agree with you that they are inconsistent with the way they're showing that. I don't know the answer to that question. They show it accurately the way that wooden fencing kind of wraps around the front, but they're not consistent with how they're depicting that side wall.
So that fence we see in the photo here exists?
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
So does the sidewall.
Yeah,
And-
but no,
does,
but
but
look
it's
at the height
not-
of
but-
it. That's
but-
only 2 courses.
No, no,
Right
no.
here, it's like...
They're representing it much
This is
higher.
the wall. Gotta be. Right?
No, that's some kind
But
of
on
fence
page,
or...
I agree with you,
Yeah,
Commissioner
right?
Mackley said, on page 6, they're showing that wall much higher than it's shown,
So they're building it
Yeah,
up?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
I-
6, 60, that's 5 feet.
yeah.
Oh, that's on this side, I don't know if
Yeah, well,
Great
it's as
on
big
the
as
other
it,
side.
it's as tall as the fence.
Well, look, here's the wall before. It's only 2 courses high. There's a cap on it. Right. So if you look at page 6, it's 6 courses high, and it's concrete block.
yeah, and I just don't know if you...
No, they said, didn't it say specifically they're not doing a solid wall on the side?
They're labeling it as existing, but I agree with you that they're depicting it much taller than it
Than it
presently
exists.
exists.
I know, I know what
Existing
it's doing. I just
stone
don't know.
retainer wall.
It's not like the picture, but I'm not sure.
No, that's,
See?
that's,
I thought they used to match the wall, which I thought we
It goes pretty close, it goes 5 feet.
yeah. And on page 4, there is an arrow. It says existing stone retainer wall, and the arrow goes up to an area which is above that footing. And that,
Was it in writing somewhere, or did you say that in your description?
Yeah, no, if I have no issue with tabling this for us to get more specific details on that, because I agree with you that they're showing that inconsistently.
so that was my comment as well. It seemed like the roof line was extending. And I appreciated the explanation on the variance. I didn't see that anywhere noted in the application. They have that listed on the, they have variance listed on the site plan for parking.
Yeah.
But I didn't see any variances listed for lot coverage area and setbacks.
I would suggest then perhaps tabling this might be in order for them to provide a more detailed narrative of how that's being represented.
Okay. Nothing in the scope.
So I think that the
No, they,
motion was Corcoran? Okay, you withdraw your motion?
Yes.
Change your motion to table? Okay, so the motion's been withdrawn, changed to table.
Second.
Commissioner Noonan seconds that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Okay, the item's been tabled unanimously. Next is 549 Commerce Drive, application of Pasquale Staltaro to establish an off-street parking lot in the design industrial district.
Mr. Chairman, I'm also going to suggest that this application be tabled. I don't have a report. I was hoping to have a report from our engineering department on this application, which I have not yet received. We have plenty of time under the time clock
Okay.
to do so. So in light of that, I would respectfully suggest that this matter also be tabled.
All right, very good. Can I have a motion?
Move to table?
Motion to table by Commissioner McAleese. Second by Commissioner Meyer. Second by Meyer. Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? Okay, this item is also tabled unanimously. Do you want us to hold on to this, or?
Yes, hang on to that. We may, I don't expect that this is going to change. I just don't have the report yet. I just have before, excuse me, we move on to the public hearing. I just want to remind you, send an email either late last week or early this week. What's today, Tuesday? Yesterday or Friday? I don't remember which, no.
Yeah.
About a meeting, an upcoming TOD workshop meeting on February the 7th. Just want to remind the commission of that. And also, we are meeting with the Conservation Commission on the 20th of February to talk about open space, with the Conservation Commission about their open space objectives for our POCD update. So if anybody's interested in that, that's going to be taking place on the 20th of February with the Conservation Commission. And our TOD workshop with our consultants is going to be Thursday, the 7th. But we'll send out a reminder. I just wanted to, since you're all here, confirm that you got that email, and we'll continue to keep you posted.
All right.
Can I ask you a question
Thank
about, sort of related to that? We got that other email you forwarded from the constituent in town about 3 reports he had sent in. But my question really, though, is, I don't understand or know what his sources are. Do we have similar data to, like, the kind of stuff that he's referring to that we can get, where he's talking about numbers of single-family homes and the different zones in town, and he raised a couple of issues for me, and I'm wondering, do we have something to back that up for us to wrap our head around?
Sitting here, I have not read it in that great a detail to be able to respond to that question, but if you have a
Yeah.
specific question with respect to that, I'm happy to talk
I can
offline
answer.
about that.
All right, I'll go through it, and I'll
So
send you an
we,
email.
we do.
Yeah.
All of that data that he recites is available to staff and the department. So like numbers of single-family homes and the square acreage of different zones and, that kind of thing. So,
So if I have a specific question, I'll just shoot you an email and then, yeah, okay.
yeah.
Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's data. Commissioner Porter.
happy to address any particular question you might have.
Okay, thank you.
I'm not familiar with this email. Was it today?
No.
No,
this
it
is from
was a
Mr.
week or two
Camaro.
ago. It was an email
Yeah,
from
3 attachments.
that I forwarded from Ken Camaro.
Okay.
They were his comments that he had submitted in previous years. So, okay. Any other comments or questions about our planning sessions and the schedule? All right. So we'll go to public hearing. Okay. So we have 2 related items. I'll call them both, and Mr. Fitzpatrick, you can handle them as you see fit. Zoning regulation amendment, application of Sacred Heart University to amend section 5.2.5 of the zoning regulations, and number 2, 5151 Park Avenue, special exception application of Sacred Heart University pertaining to the construction of a parking garage in the R3 zone.
Mr. Chairman, if I might, I'd like to reverse the order and take item 2 before I address item 1. Does that work for the chair? Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, for the record, my name's Bill Fitzpatrick. I'm an attorney in Fairfield with the law firm of Fitzpatrick, Frey & Bologna. We have offices at 1735 Post Road. Appreciate the opportunity to address the parking garage application first. I'm here this evening representing Sacred Heart University, which, as you know, is located at the intersection of Park Avenue and Jefferson Street. Campus contains approximately 80 acres. It's located in the R3 zoning district. The zoning regulations for the R3 district include a university use as a permitted use via special exception approval. The special exception application before the commission tonight requests approval pursuant to section 27 of the zoning regulations for construction of a parking structure in the southerly portion of the campus over an existing parking lot. This structure will contain 4 levels. It will accommodate a parking for 441 vehicles. Purpose of the parking structure is to provide needed parking spaces in a manner which minimizes the parking footprint required. This permits the utilization of other space for other campus priorities. The parking structure proposal includes a landscaping plan prepared by William Kenny Associates. The plan also includes the complete excavation and regrading of the existing detention basin wetland area to the south. That proposal includes the construction of a new outlet control structure, revisions to grading, drainage, and access routes. The proposal also includes installation of a swirl-type grit chamber to capture sediments from runoff from the parking garage prior to discharge into the detention basin. All of this will result in significantly improved water quality. At this point, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to introduce Mr. Patrick Rose, a principal in the firm of Rose T-Zone Company with offices in Fairfield. Mr. Rose is a registered architect. Pat.
Good evening, Pat Rose from Rose T-Zone Company. Just like to pass out a handout to you just so you can have something that's a little larger as opposed to looking at something across the room.
You can just give us that down there, and we'll take them and pass around.
Project before us has to do with parking structure, which is going to be proposed to be built in the southeast corner of the university. Yellow building here in this campus map. The currently that is the existing south parking lot, and is adjacent to the new WSHU building and Merton Hall and the existing academic center. What we've done with the location of this parking garage is try to nestle it into the grade change that occurs between Park Avenue up at the WSHU building to the east and the wetlands that are to the west that are just off from Merton Hall. And there's a significant grade change in that location. And as much as done a little site grade change. So we've done a little site section here that shows Park Avenue in this location, WSHU, then down the hill, and then the parking structure, four-story parking structure, with the lowest level being here. So the lowest level is down around elevation 262. Up at Park Avenue, you're at 293. So it's a significant grade change. The highest level of the parking garage is at elevation 296, and the parapet of the highest level is about 300. So you're about 7 feet above the roadway at the fourth level parapet. So it's nestled down into that, in that parking lot where the existing parking lot is. We ended up having to go and get a ZBA waiver associated with height because the stair tower and elevator tower exceeded the 40 feet. Actually, the bulk of the building, 95% of it, is within the 40-foot regulation of height. But because the elevator and stairs are greater than that, we had to go get a 50-foot variance for 50 foot in those two locations. Actually, this building is even the top of the elevator tower, which is the highest point, is actually lower than the top of the WSHU roof and the top of Merton Hall, which are both adjacent buildings. So, just to go through how we're going to be functioning with the parking garage is that has 4 levels. 2 of the levels are accessible by grade. The lowest level at 262 enters off of the campus road adjacent to the electrical enclosure that was built as part of the WSHU project. So your lowest level here circulates around. That parking level is by itself. There's not enough length in it to have a ramp to get up to the other elevations. So that one stands by itself. This is the elevator tower here, and then there are 2 stair towers for exiting either side. The detention pond is in the southerly portion of the garage. That's being enlarged, being changed. We have received wetlands approval for that. Some significant upgrades to the pond that needs to be maintained and enlarged to take our runoff. The second level of the parking garage is accessed from the parking lot adjacent to Park Avenue. So you come in off the campus road into that parking lot and then go into the garage, either circulate on that second floor or go up the ramp to the 3rd and 4th levels. Similarly, the location of stairs and elevators are in the same place. There are some exterior spaces that poke out beyond the garage that are on grade also adjacent to WSHU. We have taken the ramp system that comes down from Park Avenue and put in handicap accessible ramps that bring us down to the level of the second garage level. That allows you to go from WSHU down some ramps into the garage level, take the elevator down to the lowest level of the campus. So as you could actually go, you know, handicap accessibility from Park Avenue all the way down to the lowest level. Yes.
Would you mind putting the top photo up so we can see it? Yes, I'm looking at that at the same time. That is all existing conditions except for the new building that's been placed, dropped in there.
That's correct.
So that retained that wall on the parking at the WSH.
Yeah, that's where that is
So
right
there's
here.
going to be an entry, or there's an existing entry from Park Avenue directly to the WSHU site?
Yes, there's an entrance to this small parking lot that's up on top.
That's going to link to this new.
That links to this walkway that goes here. You could go down in the building, come out here, the lower level, and then you could connect to the garage.
If you're driving, like where those cones are,
Vehicular is only there.
through campus?
Through the campus. There's no access off of Park Avenue to this garage other than through Campus Road, the existing Campus Road, okay? So, let's go back to levels 3 and 4 of the garage are fairly straightforward in as much as that you access them up this center ramp, circulate around, there's parking around, and then you're using the elevators and stairs to get back down to the lowest level. So those are fairly straightforward, the same at both levels. What we're doing for the building itself is going to be a precast concrete garage. And,
I have a question on the,
what's that?
photograph.
Sure.
I assume that the roof is for parking, there aren't any cars on it.
The highest level of this is for parking, correct? Correct. What we're doing with the building is a precast concrete building that we're putting insetting thin brick on, the spandrel panels and the building panels of the stairways and elevators. That brick will be the same as the brick that was used on WSHU building, same mortar colors. Actually, the color of the concrete that's exposed, where we have columns, where we have sills below, above the brick, will be the same color as the mortar. So coordinating that with the existing WSHU building so it fits right in. What we're doing is using a aluminum screen mesh panel that'll be hung on the outside of the brick. You'll be able to see through, but it's a nice treatment of being able to see the brick and through that. What we'll be doing though is, right now I've shown that there's some letters associated with the screen mesh. We're not going to be doing that. We're going to be doing random panels.
Okay,
So they won't be spelling anything out.
very good. Yeah, so,
Go ahead.
okay. Yeah, I had a question about that. So we're not doing letters any longer. That would be considered a sign, right?
We had a discussion with Jim, yes.
Yeah, okay. So I think random colors, I mean, would we?
It wouldn't be
probably wanna-
random colors. It's all going to be a silver color. It's an aluminum. It would be random placement of those panels on the facade.
Okay. As opposed to just making them uniform?
Correct. It's going to be, if you take large sections like this, you have actually panels that run down this. There's a track that runs in between them. You could put them in different places, those
Yeah.
panels.
Yeah.
So that's what we'll do, is we'll put them in different places to create a aesthetic.
Seems like
view.
this is going to be visible, right, from Jefferson?
No. This will be somewhat visible from Park Avenue
Park
if
Avenue.
you're looking
Sorry, not Jefferson,
underneath,
Park Avenue.
through fences and underneath trees possibly, yes.
Yeah. But otherwise not visible from the roadway?
Not really, no. It's more, you'll see it you'll be on campus, on the campus roadway in order to really see it. Or if you're up at WSHU looking down.
I think I'd like to see some sort of rendering of what is proposed for the random panels, just so that we I'm not suggesting that it will be, unattractive, but just in the same way that you could do that and spell out letters, which would consist of a sign. I think we should probably see what that looks like.
Okay.
Okay. Commissioner Noonan?
On the top part, if you're standing on the top level, near the edge, how high is that wall?
4 feet.
Regulation?
Right, it's above, it's greater than the parapet requirement, the guard requirement.
Thank you.
Commissioner Corbett?
So what is the purpose of the panels? Are they just for decoration?
It's just for decoration.
But since you're not going to be spelling out things, are you going to put them everywhere, or as it is now, where some parts of the building have them and other parts don't?
We're going to put them on the north elevation and on this east elevation, because it's really where you're going to be able to see them. Nowhere else you're really going to be able to see them. They're facing the wetlands, they're facing the golf course.
But they'll be the entire elevation? I mean, the way it looks now in the picture, like on that picture, if you go to the far left, there aren't any panels. And in the picture that you just covered up,
Right.
again, the panels only exist in one section and not in the other two.
Right, and we may include them on this side. I haven't decided yet until we really study the layout of the random panels. These are the bays that are between columns. This is the stair tower in the corner, so we wouldn't do it there. We'd do it just where the spandrel panels are.
I like the panels, the way it breaks up the facade, otherwise you got 4 elevations looking like those two, and I get why you didn't do there, because you're facing the golf course and you're facing,
Yeah, and-
kids' dorms.
Right.
And that's all well and good, just based upon even your comments right now. You're not really sure what you're going to do or where they're going to be in terms of the, relative side of the building. So I think we just need a further plan for what that's going to look like.
Okay. And that's my presentation. Any other questions?
Okay?
I
Does
can
anyone
answer?
else have any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Pat. Mr. Chairman, relative to the panels, if it makes sense to the chair and the commission, what I'd propose, I fully anticipate closing this public hearing tonight. I'd like to leave the public hearing open for the sole purpose of us submitting something to staff showing a color rendering, if you will, showing the utilization of those panels. Does that make sense to the commission?
Sure. Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, because we can't have you submitting evidence after the public hearing is closed, right? So we'd have to keep it open for that purpose. But then, I don't want to have to make you come back, right?
Please.
Yeah. All right, well, before we, I think it's important.
I
Yeah.
understand your concern, and I have no objection to trying to answer your concern.
Right,
I think
okay.
it's reasonable.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, I'd now like to sum up and conclude, making specific reference to Section 27 of the zoning regulations. This application was reviewed by the Conservation Department, and an inland wetland approval was obtained. This matter was also the subject of an application to the Zoning Board of Appeals pertaining to height. A variance approval was obtained. I'd like to submit a copy of the Conservation Commission approval as well as the ZBA approval. The drainage report submitted to the Conservation Department was made available to the Town of Fairfield Engineering Department, and Laura Pulley of the Engineering Department reviewed and approved the proposed plan, and you can see her confirmation in the code minutes. The relevant factors for consideration by the Commission in reviewing a special exception application are outlined in Section 27.4 of the zoning regulations. 27.4.1 notes the proposal shall be in harmony with the appropriate and orderly development of the town and the neighborhood, and not discourage appropriate development or use of adjacent property. I think the issue of harmony with the town and the neighborhood has essentially already been settled. Use of this property by Sacred Heart is decades old, has been recognized by this commission in the Town Plan of Conservation and Development. It's also self-evident that the proposed use here, construction of a parking structure, is an integral component to the university use. Second part of 2741, that the proposed use not hinder or discourage appropriate development or use of adjacent property, is again satisfied here, I submit, by the fact the university has existed on site since 1963, and the addition of the proposed parking structure at virtually the lowest elevation of the university campus, shielded from Park Avenue by the WSHU building, in significant part, as you heard from Patrick Rose, results in a minimal impact on the neighborhood in general. The fact that the proposed parking structure is surrounded on three sides by the existing Sacred Heart University and on the south by Fairchild Wheeler Golf Course also indicates a lack of any impact. The end result is that the proposed parking structure, with no direct access to Park Avenue, with the landscaping and given its location, will have virtually no impact on the appropriate development and use of adjacent property. 2742 is satisfied since there is adequate access for fire protection. 2743 relates to traffic. The proposed parking structure does not, in and of itself, generate traffic, but is rather an effort to provide additional parking on campus. I should note that parking structure is designed for and limited to use by the university students, faculty, visitors, etc. As such, it will have no traffic impact, certainly not constitute an undue hazard to traffic or congestion. 2744 discusses landscaping. We have submitted a landscaping plan as part of the application. 2745 is satisfied since the presence of the university is acknowledged in the Town Plan of Conservation and Development adopted by this commission in the year 2000, and the proposed parking structure constitutes an effective utilization of university resources. For the reasons I've outlined, I'd submit that this application complies with the relevant zoning regulations and request that this special exception application be approved. If you would like, Mr. Chair, I'd be happy to answer questions now. Obviously, Mr. Rose, as well as Michael Kinney and Carmelo Cicero from Sacred Heart University are here with me tonight. We'd be happy to answer any questions relative to the parking structure, and then I'll move on to the text amendment.
Yeah, I do have a question. So the wetland permit approval that you just handed around is from August 2018, right?
Yes.
So I don't understand why this was not included in the original application, and that we just got this passed around right now to consider in the context of the site plan. There's a number of comments in here, which I'm reading now just for the first time while you're making your legal arguments to me, which indicate a need for consideration. I'm noting that, and I quote from page 5, it is pointed out that the applicant's proposed detention design does not meet the conservation guideline of the 10-year post-development runoff to be detained to meet the 2-year pre-development runoff rate, but does provide for a 0 increase in runoff, blah, blah, blah. There's another comment that the stormwater detention provided does not meet the conservation guidelines for detaining a 24-hour 10-year post-development storm, et cetera. And then a comment in the code enforcement minutes from conservation that the plan does not reflect the conditions of the inland wetland plan. Now, I presume, hopefully, you'll be able to tell me that all of those were taken into account in a revised plan, but I don't understand why it wasn't submitted in the context of the application. Why am I doing this on the fly?
The fact of the matter is your application doesn't, it requires site plans, it requires A2 surveys, it requires a statement of intent. It doesn't require me to submit the conservation approval. I'd be happy to do so from this point forward. It's not by any stretch an attempt to evade you. I'm handing it out tonight.
I know.
If I thought it were, I thought it was entirely relevant, I would have submitted it. I didn't.
Okay.
And that's Ms. Jacobson's concerns about the 10-year, 2-year. That is a routine discussion that every applicant has with that conservation staff. We have among the most stringent conservation staff in the state of Connecticut. You know, if I keep Laura Pulley happy, quite frankly, I'm thrilled. And she's the one that you look to rather than conservation. Fact of the matter is, the commission approved it with the drainage we've proposed. She wants some minor changes. There was a question about she wanted us to reutilize the soil from the bottom of the detention basin. Bill Kenny said, you want me to get rid of invasives? If I put back the same soil, I'm gonna have more invasives. That's one of the changes that will be reflected in the final plan, but has nothing to do with a P&Z issue, but is a conservation issue.
Yeah.
Those are the kind of changes that are not reflected in my plan to you because it's not relevant to any zoning consideration. It's a conservation issue.
I mean,
and we'll take care of it.
okay. So just to be fair, to the extent that drainage, adequate drainage, is part of our consideration, you know, that's what I'm looking for when I'm reviewing the inland wetland permit, okay? And so to the extent that, you know, there are implications arising out of the inland wetland permit with respect to the site plan and the drainage plan, you know, that's important. It's important to me. You know, we have issues that, unanticipated issues that pop up when we don't look at these things carefully. And I'm just trying to be sensitive to that.
Just please keep in mind, in this case, it's the golf course that's south, and other than golfers losing more golf balls because of an expanded detention basin, we are not going to flood anyone.
Okay. All right. Well, we can review this now, you know, offline, but you've made changes in the plan to reflect the requirements of the conservation?
We did not.
You have not?
No, because we always wait to get an approval, one hopes, from this commission and revise all our plans in one fell swoop, because it doesn't make sense to spend the time and effort to keep conservation happy when there may be other changes coming from this, possible other changes coming from this commission.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Yeah. Commissioner Corcoran.
Regarding traffic, these are 400 and some additional spaces, and I think you just said that there would be no additional traffic. I mean, are all those cars parking somewhere else at the moment?
They have to be, yes. We're not going to generate new traffic by virtue of the fact there's a parking garage. The faculty has to go to school, the kids have to go to school. They're there somewhere.
So the purpose of this garage is to be located more conveniently than the existing space?
Yeah, yes, and you know, there are new dormitories being constructed, and this will help in that regard as well.
Well, the new dormitories would generate more cars, you mean?
Well, in certain instances, yes, depending if they're freshmen, it doesn't generate any more cars. They're not permitted to have cars. Sophomores, I'm not certain, and upperclassmen, perhaps.
So, I mean, is there more traffic or not?
No. This is a parking garage. It simply serves to park the cars. It doesn't generate a single car in and of itself.
I mean, so, if I may, to be fair, so I can understand a scenario in which the development of additional parking spaces on campus would provide an opportunity for students who otherwise wouldn't have a place for their cars to now have a place for cars, which could, in a hypothetical, create additional cars on campus that wouldn't otherwise be there. Because now we have a 440 space parking garage at which the college can grant permits to students, additional students, to have more cars on campus. that's one way in which this parking garage could create more cars.
That's possible. There are 100 cars there now on grade, so there's a net of 341. You're correct.
Right? You know, there's no traffic study that's been submitted with this.
No, there was not.
So I think it is appropriate, however, you know, it's an appropriate question to ask, you know, whether there would be any increase in the number of vehicles or traffic, you know, implications to that. And I suppose we just have to, you know, accept your representation, you know, with respect to that aspect of, you know, the application. Commissioner Francis.
What is the current undergraduate population?
Just shy of 5,100.
And what's your target when you're built out?
5,500 max?
Within 3 years, maximum of 55.
Within 3 years, maximum of 5,500.
Thank you.
Okay.
Where's your 500 cars?
Yeah, well, you can do the math. Any other questions for Mr. Fitzpatrick on this application? Yep. Commissioner McAleese.
This plan is to augment the existing parking condition, right?
That's correct.
Are there any plans currently to eliminate some of the parking? Because I know one of the new buildings, the one on the corner, took away spots when they built that. So is there any further development proposed other than the...
Best of my
original
knowledge,
site?
other than the parking spaces that exist under where this will go, no. Not aware of any other spaces being eliminated.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Anything else? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving-
So I will hold the public hearing. How do you want to do this? Because I got to go to public hearing, and then, you know, you want me to ask for public comment on this aspect of the?
Please.
Why don't I do that?
Please.
Right? Because you're concluding now on item 2
That's correct.
of the public hearing agenda, right? Is there any member of the public that wishes to be heard on this item? Okay, no? Hearing none, thank you. Mr. Fitzpatrick, I'll keep the public hearing open so that you can submit a further design plan for the exterior of the parking structure.
Thank you. To address agenda item number 1, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, for the record, my name is Bill Fitzpatrick. I'm an attorney in Fairfield with the law firm of Fitzpatrick, Frey & Bologna. I'm here tonight representing Sacred Heart University, located at the intersection of Park Avenue and Jefferson Street, a campus of approximately 80 acres located in the R3 zoning district. The application before the commission is an application of the university to amend section 5.2.5 of the zoning regulations. The proposed text amendment pertains specifically to section 5.2.5.4 and is additional language, which is proposed to read as follows. With respect to colleges and universities designated in section 5.1.4, parens D and parens, which are located in zoning district R3, the portion of a parking structure utilized for college or university parking purposes shall not be included in the calculations of lot coverage or total floor area, end quote. The purpose of this regulation change is to exempt any portion of a parking structure utilized for college or university parking from the calculation of lot coverage or total floor area. It pertains by its specific language to colleges and universities located in zoning district R3. At present, the applicant, Sacred Heart University, is located in the R3 zoning district, and you've heard the other half of our presentation relating to the proposed construction of a parking structure in the southerly portion of the university campus. As a result, the approval of this amendment would exclude the proposed parking structure, which is designed for university parking, from the calculation of coverage and floor area. I think there are 2 bases for approval of this zone regulation amendment. One is more factual in nature, the second more of a planning nature. To deal with the factual basis, the fact of the matter is if the amendment is not approved, the university campus will reach virtual end of development particularly on a floor area ratio basis, if the garage structure is approved by the university. Is approved by the commission. The garage structure approval brings the university campus to a 29.66 floor area ratio. The limitation in FAR in the R3 zone is 30%, 29.66 and 30. This means there can be very little, if any, additional floor area that can be constructed on campus. In this regard, I'd like the university to see the university's plans for the build-out of this campus. For this purpose, I'd like to introduce Mr. Kevin Herrick, an architect with SLAM. Kevin heads the higher education practice section of the SLAM Collaborative. The SLAM Collaborative was ranked number 8 in the country of the top university architecture firms by Building Design and Construction magazine.
Feather in your cap there. Okay, before he gets started, and thank you, just a couple of foundational questions. So the reason you wanted to take this second is because the application for the parking structure meets our regulations. In other words,
Yeah, this is not a prerequisite to that.
Exactly, right? So you have an overall master plan for the development of the campus, which includes buildings 4, 5, and 6, which have not been constructed yet.
That's correct.
And so the parking garage is the next thing on the agenda. And if we approve that, then you're maxed out on floor area coverage.
Yes.
Okay? Right. So we're now taking up the amendment to the regulations so that that can lay a foundation for you then to come back in the future for applications for the development of buildings 4, 5, and 6.
That's correct, with the caveat, Mr. Chairman, that if the amendment is denied, I'm not going to commit the university to constructing the parking structure. We may well try to utilize utilize 4, 5, and 6 to accommodate, to utilize the FAR that is remaining is my only point. I didn't want to mislead.
I totally understand, and the approval of an application before us for, is not a commitment to build. There's lots of things that we approve, unfortunately, fortunately or unfortunately, however you look at it, that don't get built.
Yes, indeed.
We had the 830G tonight, you heard, which was approved and never built, and now we got a new application for that.
I can commit to no 8-30G on this campus. I can.
All right, so, very good, but I think I just wanted to make sure that everyone was understanding the lay of the land here and
Correct.
why we were
Thank you.
proceeding in this fashion. Thank you.
Could I possibly ask for 90 seconds? My computer went into hibernation and I need to restart it. Apologize for that.
How long is your presentation?
It's about 3 minutes.
We just lost
He ran to the restroom.
2 people. All right. Why don't we just take a moment, wait till I get back. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. The purpose of probably the next 3 minutes or so is to give you just a preview of what is planned for really the conclusion of the residential quad development. You've seen us here a couple times in the past presenting the renovations to the former Bennett Hall, recently rebranded as Toussaint Hall. These two residence halls here are apartment-style living, which we've sort of nicknamed the twins as they mirror image one another. You've seen those projects. They're actually under construction right now. So you can see in the background the three buildings sort of ghosted in there, which we have romantic names called Building 4, 5, and 6 right now. How'd that work? Apologize for that. There you go. You're really struggling here tonight. Last time we're going to backup plan. So you probably remember when we've presented the sort of the master plan concept a few years ago. I know everybody wasn't on the commission at that point, but here is the Jewish home property as it were at this moment becoming acquired by the university. You see the 5-story Bennett Hall, now Toussaint Hall. You see this sort of flat pancake building, which was called Tandit, has now been demoed and has given way to a new development. This is the 5-story tower renovation, which has been converted into suite-style living, and you can see some really terrific, I think, transformations. This side that looks towards the quad, as Tandit Hall was pulled off of it, has this glassy 2-story living room space, which is kind of an amenity for all the buildings that you're about to see or have seen in the past. And so these are for gatherings, for studying on a daily basis, special events and the like. A new entrance towards the south or towards the university side was old, sort of decrepit precasting or poured in place concrete balconies were stripped off to make these two study halls that stack on top of one another form the entry. So here is the current plan that you were seeing ghosted before, the twins in the foreground, buildings 4, 5, and 6, which are at first glance, this is intended to be a fairly traditional looking architecture. And I think what's really an interesting narrative about this is many campuses begin with a traditional quad, and you can see that at University of Virginia, the University of Maryland, and as the university grows and expands, you usually see the more contemporary buildings of the 50s and 60s, 70s, and the like start to grow and expand from the traditional core. Well, this is a campus that actually the core became available many years after the university began. But the interesting direction from the university was, let's create that traditional core. And so you're going to see some architecture that has cast stone accents, brick veneers, punched windows, beautiful outdoor courtyards framed by pitched roofs, and I think a nice residential scale. Creating really, I think, an interesting development here that is a combination, even though the buildings do look similar, they house suites, mini suites, and apartment-style living. So the floor plans within are fairly similar, but they are not exactly the same. You're also going to see a 200-seat dining facility here as that special element. We'll get a little closer to that in a minute. So I'm going to take, we put together sort of this quick fly around I think this is probably the best way to look at it. You can see here building 6, and you can and I'm going to come back to some still shots, but the buildings are pulled apart, so they create some nice entries into the quad. You can see here some really extension of Chapel Quad here up the amphitheater that's now constructed. You see the existing. Let me go to some still shots for us here. So here's the Linda McMahon Center, the Pitt Center up to the left, the new rec center, which is going to open this summer, just off the screen here. This is very much the image that you saw before. Moving around to the west, you see buildings 4 and 5. You see another kind of bridged opening into the quad. So this is open air underneath with common space above. You see a number of places where the buildings are pulled apart to do a couple of things. They let students get into the inner quad from either parking or from campus side. They also start to create some really interesting outdoor gathering spaces. And you can see here towards outside of Toussaint Hall. Obviously there's the main quad, but I think what really makes these kind of more traditional quadrangles successful are not just the main quad, but how these little alcoves are created for whether they're outdoor dining or whether they're just social spaces for students to gather in the nice weather. All of these can be used throughout the calendar year. We're looking at building 6, which has the dining, and you can see the covered loading area here, which allows loading to happen sort of incognito. This is going to come from the north parking, much of which is existing now. And you can get into the main, there's a 2-story foyer here that brings you into either the suites or into the dining. Building 5 are all mini suites. Mini suite means that it's almost like freshman housing, except they're basically groupings of 4 beds have their own bathroom. And when we talk apartment, that means 4 beds have their own kitchen. And when we talk suites, 4 beds have their own common room, but no cooking facilities. Here we've gone into the quad, and you can see building 6 and the campus the quadrangle dining. The actual cooking facilities back here, the loading area I was describing in the background. Just a couple of views from eye level. This is down on the grade outside of the Twins, looking westerly, and you see buildings 5, building 4, and Toussaint Hall in that renovated image I showed you to start the show over here on the left. If we spin our head a little bit, this is now the entry into building 6, so that 2-story foyer that you can actually walk through that indoor space to get to the north parking area, and then the 2-story dining hall. 2-story in volume, not 2-story in levels. One last view from the grade is another one of these kind of indoor-outdoor spaces. This is building 4 on the right, building 5. This is that sort of covered archway entrance into the quadrangle that I was mentioning. These buildings do an interesting job. You see very little, matter of fact, no large air handlers or chillers on the grade, so you can see air handling equipment being disguised by the belfries on buildings 4 and 5. Another part of creating, I think, a nice quadrangle is to get that stuff out of being on grade. And then finally, back to the view that we started, and again, this represents the completion of sort of the central residential quadrangle or core. I guess if there's any questions, or Bill, if you want to close before I field questions.
Does anyone have any questions? Commissioner Macklin.
Driving all these dorms, is the goal to get like 100% occupancy on campus? Or?
They can never get 100% occupancy
I'm just wondering what the, yeah. Like how many they are on campus now, and what's their goal? Or?
You hope to get a maximum.
Can you
hope to get
come up?
70%.
Mike, why don't
I'm
you
sorry,
come
you'll
up?
have to, if you're going to do that, you'll have to use the microphone. Thank you. Just introduce yourself for the record also.
My name is Mike Kinney. I'm Senior Vice President at Sacred Heart University for Finance and Administration. All this stuff comes to me. So the goal is right now we house about, through buildings that we own and what we rent, is approximately around 55% of the student population. We've made a proposal to the board over a number of times and they approved to bring that up to about 70%. Therefore, it gives you flexibility, especially for seniors where they live. Most of them do live off campus. What we're looking at here on this piece of property will be, and all of the piece of property basically on the Sacred Heart original property, which was 54 acres, and the Jewish Home for the Elderly property, will be primarily freshmen and sophomores. There'll be 2 buildings here designated for juniors, but everyone else will be freshmen and sophomores. Also, to go back to your issue about parking, freshmen at this point in time it's the only class not allowed to park on campus. Therefore, there's cars. Are there any more cars? The maximum amount of students we can handle, the maximum amount that we want, is 5,500. Why do we say that? Because once you move above that, it becomes disproportionate what it costs to move to another 100. They cost you the equivalency of a 300 to 400 in hirings of different functions of the university, all that type of stuff. So it's so this brings us to about 950 beds, I think, up in this area, someplace in that vicinity of the old Jewish home, what we plan up here. And one other comment on the parking, the enclosed parking, the Edgerton Center, which a lot of people complain about for the events, and for public events we have there, it's difficult to find a place to park. So for the people coming in for events at night, especially at night, and on weekends, it eliminates a lot of issues that we have there. That's part of the issues for the parking.
Okay. Thank you. Does anyone else have any other questions? Thank you. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, thank you, Kevin. Mr. Chairman, as Mr. Herrick has shown the commission, the university plans on completing the upper quad with the construction of 3 additional residence halls. Obviously, these residence halls would be subject to your review and approval. It's the university's position that the build-out of the university campus, which will essentially use up all FAR with the construction of 4, 5, and 6, there's actually a little overage we need to deal with, provides a factual rationale for the approval of this proposed text amendment, excluding the parking structure from coverage and floor area calculations. The commission can see what they will get. I think the planning rationale for the approval of this proposed text amendment relates to the relatively unique nature of the university use. The university use in today's day and age requires, number one, a significant parcel of property. There are required student amenities in today's college and university marketplace, and it really is a marketplace that requires significant construction. In the case of Sacred Heart, there's the Pitt Center, the building we've referred to as the End Zone building, tennis courts, softball field, the Linda McMahon Gallery building. There's many adjunct university structures that are a necessary part of today's university campus. As a result, a great deal of coverage and floor area is consumed. The parking structure, given the size of today's university campus, can be relatively unobtrusive. Certainly the case here, hidden behind a hill on the lowest part of the campus. In addition, a parking structure is not something occupied by people, by students, by faculty, but rather a structure occupied by empty automobiles. It has a significant positive impact on the university environment in that it locates a number of automobiles in one specific place instead of spreading them around campus. It also has a positive environmental impact in that there's a significant reduction in on-grade paving and asphalt that would be necessary to accommodate the same number of cars if it were on-grade parking. Sacred Heart has had the good fortune to be under solid, forward-thinking leadership, grow substantially over the years. Originally, what was a former high school is now a thriving, vibrant, attractive campus today. The acquisition of the West Campus down Jefferson Street provides the opportunity for the university on the East Campus to create an upper quad and utilize a traditional university residence hall model. This just adds another positive element to the university itself. The proposed residence halls provide an ideal opportunity to take students out of rental housing in Bridgeport or Fairfield, bring them onto campus. The university strongly believes the student experience is enhanced, provides a benefit to both the university and the student. I think you could argue it's basically a win for the students, for the university, and for the community as well. The legal test for the granting of a text amendment, as the commission well knows, is set forth in the Ron Carey Industries case, 281 Connecticut 66, a 2007 case, which states, quote, acting in such legislative capacity, the local zoning board is free to amend its regulations whenever time, experience, and responsible planning for contemporary or future conditions reasonably indicate the need for change, end quote. I submit that this application before you satisfies this test. Sacred Heart is a positive member of the town of Fairfield community. The university, its students and visitors are estimated to spend over $150 million yearly, and that doesn't take into account capital spending. The university, as the commission is well aware, has been constructing attractive, well-designed additions to its campus as part of its master plan. In 2017-2018, Sacred Heart students, faculty, and staff participated in over 100,000 hours of community engagement. My point is that the university has a positive impact on the town of Fairfield, and approval of this text amendment allows the university the opportunity to complete the foreseeable build-out of its campus. For the reasons I've outlined, I'd request this text amendment be approved. Kevin Herrick from SLAM, Pat Rose from Rose Tizo, Mike Kinney, the university's Senior Vice President of Finance and Administration, Carmelo Cicero, his right-hand man. We're all here, and we'd be happy to answer any questions that the commission may have.
Thanks. I do have a question. Does anybody else have any questions? So, presuming that the text amendment is granted, what are the implications on other properties in the town of Fairfield? So you're not the only college and university, not the only landowner to which this text amendment would apply. How would this impact other parcels around town?
The amendment, by its language, is limited to university uses in the R3 zone. Mm-hmm. This is the only university use in the R3 zone today. If there were another university use in the R3 zone in the future, they could utilize this amendment as well.
And so presently then, the only parcel that would be affected by the text amendment is Sacred Heart University.
That's yes, the best of my knowledge.
Very good. Does anyone else have any other questions? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there any member of the public that wishes to be heard on this item? Oh, okay. Commissioner Francis?
The West Campus, are you having any dormitory use over there at all in the plan?
There is no dormitory use proposed at the West Campus.
Okay. We approved offices and some
That's correct.
classrooms in one building. And what are the other two buildings going to be used for in your long-range plan?
We're utilizing 2/3 of the campus. I mean, one building has there's a 2-courtyard building and a 1-courtyard building. We're utilizing the 2-courtyard building, 2 stories, Mr. Kinney? I mean, 2 floors?
Both buildings are 3 stories,
Yep.
and we're renovating in 2 stories.
And
Can you repeat that? He didn't use the microphone.
both buildings are 3 stories. We have permission, as I understand it, to renovate 2 stories of the larger of the 2 buildings. No residential use is anticipated.
Okay. So it will all be offices or classrooms eventually?
All offices and
is all your
classrooms.
planning? Okay.
Actually, there's a small portion that may well be the emergency communications center for the town. I'm on the fire commission, and
Yeah.
they're very excited about having a Easton, perhaps Trumbull, Westport Fairfield, common ECC, and the university has offered to cooperate with the town and the 3 or 4 towns to place that on the smaller
Is
of
there
the
a
2 buildings.
certain type of classroom that you're having on the West Campus that you're not having students or dining? You know, not having residential facilities or dining? What type of classes are you having over there?
To date, we've had, excuse me, to date, we've renovated part of the building on the first floor. I'd love to take you all through it. It looks great. We have 14 new classrooms on the first floor, with additional renovations going on. Those 14 classrooms that are on the first floor of the west building, as it's classified as, are all traditional type classrooms. Call them computer rooms, but basically what they are, they're just desks with computers that pop up and pop down. A number of common areas. There is a food service area that was there from General Electric's old. That's just been modernized. Excuse me. On that same floor, there is a under construction today. There are 2 parts of it that are being renovated. Is that one is for what's called a maker's lab. That's for engineering, and the second part of it is for I think which recently has been announced with a venture with Verizon, an incubator type facility for people to come in, work with students, work with the facilities we have there. And on the second floor, we also have 7 additional classrooms. These are just boxes. Boxes meaning there's 35 to 40 seats in each room, and some of them may be classified as special, but the only speciality for them are computers, nothing more than that. The other thing is in the guest house, which is the hotel that General Electric had there, there's 28 bedrooms in that facility. There's a fairly large ballroom downstairs, which is quite nice. We did renovate that, and it's probably about 90% done, and we've used for 3 or 4 functions. We have no plans whatsoever. We have no idea what to do with the hotel part of the facility at this point in time. So it's going to be part of a hospitality program that we've initiated this past year. That, together with Great River Golf Course, which we acquired 3 years ago up in Milford, and other aspects that we're putting together for hospitality, hotel management, all that type of stuff. That's what's happening up there in those buildings, besides some necessary maintenance things and conversion from electric to gas, all that type of stuff. So we are changing that stuff out as time goes on.
I'm surprised it was electric heat.
Well, just for the record, the utility bills were close to $5 million in that building, and we believe we can take about more than 1/3 of that out by converting it to hot water gas, basically, mostly for the for heat. Yeah.
Unbelievable. Very good. Thank you very much for the update. Okay, anyone else? All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Fitzpatrick. Any member of the public wish to be heard? No? Hearing none, I will close the public hearing on this item, and I will adjourn the meeting.